Hi, my name is Tanya Kipe, and I'm from Florida. I first learned about the science of reading about November 2019. I got my reading endorsement, and I was feeling that I was not any more educated or confident in teaching reading than prior to having the certificate. So I kind of went on my own search, trying to find the information to help my students. And I stumbled upon the Facebook group, The Science of Reading What I Should Have Learned in College. And that group has been super informative, and I joined there in January 2020.
Hello, my name is Tiffany Blassingame, and I am the head of school of the Ferguson School in Decatur, Georgia. I first learned about structured literacy as a first grade teacher in an urban school district. It was part of a training for the English Language Arts program that our district was adopting.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Heritage, and I live in Augusta, Georgia. I first learned about structured literacy and the science of reading when I took my certification for Orton Gillingham. Before that, I was only trained on balanced literacy and how to do read-alouds, guided reading, shared reading, and independent reading to immerse the kids into reading text. Kind of like taking the words and just soaking it into your brain.
My name is Kristen Carter, and I live in Walton County, Georgia. I first discovered the science of reading about 5 years ago when one of my own children was diagnosed with dyslexia. Our family immediately started looking for the best ways we could support them as a learner, and the science of reading kept showing up in our searches again and again and again. And the more that we learned about the science of reading and its approaches, the more we knew it was the best avenue for his success. And we started using those methods almost immediately.
I first began learning about the science of reading and structured literacy back in 2021 when I enrolled in an endorsement class through an educational agency in my area that focused on teaching students with dyslexia.
So I learned about the science of reading and structured literacy in 2018. I have been a primary educator since 2004.
So when I first found out the science of reading information, I was super excited, but it was like overwhelming to go through the group and to learn all the different components of the reading rope. So it took some time to digest each little section and then find the resources and find the books and complementary videos to continue to build my knowledge, but then also to extend to the classroom and utilize that information with students. And then I went through a period of guilt where I felt really bad because I had struggling students and I didn't know how to help them. I mean, I was doing the things that my school or my district had told me to do, but those things weren't working, and I knew they weren't working, but I didn't know any other way to fix the problem. And so looking back, I feel bad because I pushed kids forward who weren't ready. I retained students, and had I known this information, I could have helped them and they could have been more successful.
As a teacher, it was easy for me to see how the skills and information that students learned were built on each other. As a parent of a then kindergartner, I saw a significant retention of phonics and phonemic awareness skills for my son.
My first reaction to learning about structured literacy was what I'm sure everyone else thought. Where has this been all of my life, and why am I just now hearing about this? I grew up in the whole language generation, and I was never taught phonics like my parents were. Therefore, while I'm an avid reader now, I was never taught the rules of English and how to use them for reading and writing.
As a classroom teacher, I was really shocked that the way I had been teaching reading for my entire career was actually not considered a best practice anymore.
My first reaction when learning about both of these was pure amazement and also a little bit shocked because just in 5 months I had learned more about teaching reading than I had ever learned before. And I was able to immediately bring back new strategies and implement a different approach into my classroom with my first graders and help them become better readers.
So I was blown away that there was research, data, information out there that I didn't have awareness to. So having learned more in the last 4 years, I have changed the way that I teach and giving my students more tools and resources with explicit and systematic literacy instruction. So I am disappointed that in more programs and undergraduate levels, there isn't courses addressing the science of reading, structured literacy. There's still a lot of talk of balanced literacy, whole brain, and all of that. Well, that's not meeting our students' needs. So I have been on a mission the last 4 years, informing more people about science of reading, showing the research, the data, having observations of what structured literacy should look like in the classroom for our students, bringing in multisensory approaches to really help everything stick inside their head.
I'm super excited now that I know about the science of reading, and I've gotten to see it in action. It's really amazing. In the Tier 1 instruction, it has changed. So what we do is we teach phonics, not to memorize the words, but to know that pattern and to be able to use that pattern to read and to spell. Because I was confused why I had students who were able to read, but they couldn't spell. So it's really cool to see how the pieces are connected now. And then when we teach background information to help with comprehension, that helps the students to understand, especially like if you're giving them a story from another country or about an animal that they're not familiar with, and you can build some background with videos or some other text and illustrations and photos. And then focusing on the morphology of the words, using those inflectional endings can also help improve comprehension. We were completely skipping phonemic awareness, which is a huge component to helping them to orally manipulate the sounds, which then translate into decoding and reading those higher level words. And so things like that we've changed, and it's made a huge difference.
Knowing the evidence base behind effective reading instruction helps me to plan effectively for students and gives me confidence that a firm foundation in literacy is being made.
With whole language, while it worked for a few of us in that we were given a list of spelling words to memorize on Monday and regurgitate on Friday, what about the masses of kids that it didn't work for? Were they all placed in special education because they didn't learn the way that we did? Being a dyslexia specialist now, I train the teachers that while everything that I'm going to show you will help with those exhibiting characteristics of dyslexia, they're just simply good teaching strategies that have proven to help every child to learn.
Neuroscientists had years of research and had discovered the mechanisms and processes in the brain that supported humans learning how to read. And it turns out that reading doesn't just happen naturally. There actually is a best way to teach reading that meets the needs of dyslexic learners, but also all learners. If we implement structured literacy at Tier 1 and use what the science of reading has shown us to be true, I believe our children will be much more successful.
I think what inspires me the most about structured literacy is the fact that it benefits all students and not just those who struggle. Through this approach, we can give each child the opportunity to learn and gain the tools they need to be successful readers. I think it is extremely important that we have an evidence-based instructional approach that is effective for teaching reading at a Tier 1 level, especially in elementary and primary grades, because early intervention is key. I think if we do not strengthen our Tier 1 instruction, the learning gaps will only increase and the number of proficient readers will continue to decrease. I love that structured literacy is designed to be explicit and provides a balanced approach that focuses on all key components of reading instruction that are needed to be taught to help our students become proficient readers.
So knowing the evidence behind effective reading instruction has really served my students tremendously. we're able to, I teach kindergarten, so we start off with the basic letters and sounds, and we build it in a systematic, explicit approach. And so we kind of blend everything together, and I'm seeing my students developmentally, when it's the right time, make those gains. And so their reading by the end of the year really supports them with everything we're doing with inside the classroom. We're not having as many students on tier 2 because we're meeting their needs at tier 1 with that explicit instruction, bringing in, different tools, getting their hands busy, their bodies busy, their brains are going, and just helping them absorb and retain everything. So we meet their needs on tier 1. And so we're able also to identify early on students that may be dyslexic or have learning differences and what their needs are when it comes to literacy. So we're able to zone in there and then bring the next step when it comes to tier 2 instruction. And we then have the evidence, the data, and the intentional remediation to meet their needs.
I believe that continued training is necessary for educators to better understand the science of reading, and that it takes repeated experiences with structured literacy in order to fully see the benefits for students.
As I tutor dyslexic kids now, or train the teachers that I coach on effective literacy instruction, I always keep structured literacy in the back of my mind. If the students are not able to fluently read or comprehend text on grade level, what are we going to do as teachers to redirect our instruction? How can we not only make this lesson multisensory, but also dig deeper to the root of the problem? For instance, they may not be able to spell a word correctly. Okay, which parts of the word are they spelling correctly? Which parts are they struggling with? This will tell you a lot about their previous phonics experience and how to guide your future instruction with that child. It will also encourage the children when they hear their teacher say, "Honey, you only missed this part at the end. So let me show you a way when to use C and when to use K, and when you use CK, you'll think it's cool. Let's go try it." As opposed to, "You misspelled that word. Try again."
In my own classroom, I started making small shifts in my instruction that still supported my curriculum map, but were also in line with the science of reading. And I was really shocked at the gains my kids were making, and also at how quickly they were making those gains. My own child made over 2 years worth of growth in one academic school year using the same methods that I was using in my classroom.
Learning about structured literacy and the science of reading really ignited a fire in my passion for teaching, and I have fallen in love with teaching reading because I see the whole picture, but I also have a better understanding of each of the small components that weave together to reach reading proficiency. I feel I am better able to identify specific deficits that these children have yet to overcome. I can target those deficits with instruction and interventions. And then in the end, I see kiddos become readers who used to say, "I can't read, I'm not good at reading," or "I don't know how to read."
So the training in structured literacy and the science of reading has changed the practices within my classroom, within my grade level, within my school. We're kind of like spreading it out there. I've done additional trainings for educators within Cobb County. I'm starting a paraprofessional seminar coming up addressing literacy and how we need to dust off what they've known to do for years, because it's not the right practices in supporting our students with structured literacy and the science of reading. So it's like an impact where it's like that little ripple in the water, and now I'm spreading it out.
You'll hear teachers say, "Oh, not another thing to learn. Oh, science of reading. Oh, that's great. Now we have to learn something new." Or "We have to change things again." Or "The education pendulum is swinging back." Well, guys, I want to tell you that this is a critical thing to change. This won't help most of your students. It will help all of your students, and they deserve that. They deserve to come to school and get the appropriate education that they need. And so please take the time to learn how to use the source strategies and resources so that it can help all of the students. And it's not a curriculum. It is best practice, best ways to teach, best ways to help all learners to understand the foundational skills so that way they can build upon that with their comprehension piece. And yes, SOAR in the beginning right now is heavily focused on those foundational skills, but it's because if they don't have the foundational skills, they will not be able to comprehend independently. So please take the time to learn about the science of reading and start implementing even just a little bit every day until you can fully practice everything and feel confident yourself. So best of luck to you, and thanks for listening.
For school leaders who are not familiar with the science of reading, I would encourage them to learn more and recognize that it may take some time to shift the mindset of teachers and parents regarding structured literacy. But the benefits of developing strong readers and writers in our young children far outweighs the challenge of getting the school community on board. Thank you for letting me share my experience.
I'd like the administrators to acknowledge that while most of them were trained in phonics instruction, a lot of their teachers were probably trained in whole language like me and don't know the rules or ways to teach the kids to read or write. So train them. Don't dock them or knock them for their students failing because they probably are doing the best they can with what they know how to do. Given the proper training and gentle guidance to know better, do better, they will feel appreciated and the kids will strive.
We have an obligation to our children to make them readers, and we have the research and the know-how to move forward. The science of reading is our best option. So I urge you to look at the research, to be willing to break free of doing things the way we have always done them, and to embrace a change that is going to mean success for all of our students. Thank you.
I think if I were to tell teachers or school leaders who are not familiar with the science of reading or structured literacy, is the one key fact that it benefits all students. And it's designed to teach all components of reading explicitly. And I believe our students deserve to be given the tools to grow as lifelong readers.
So for anyone that teachers, school leaders that are not familiar with structured literacy, it's out there, it's evidence-based. What I see within my classroom and the gains that they make, it is a game changer. Students need to know why and how. So if we're able to provide them with that information, it's only going to make them more academically successful, which is what our goal is. We want to meet students where they are and get them where they need to be. Structured literacy, science of reading, the evidence is there. So if we all can just, take some time, grow more professionally, read some books, and gain the knowledge ourselves, then we will be the best educators out there for our students and our families.